Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting video. In today's episode, we are going to dive deep into the component.ts file of an Angular application and understand its features. Specifically, we will be focusing on the code provider here. To start off, we have the usual input statement at the top of the file. The form element has an additional attribute #sample login equal to quotation ng form. This attribute is used for a template reference variable called sample login, which can be used to reference this form in Angular script code. Below the label, we have an input tag element of type text. It allows users to enter their username. The name attribute is set to username to uniquely identify this field. Inside it, we have a label tag element with the text password. Below the label, we have an input tag element of type password. This input field is specifically designed for password entry, similar to username field. It has a name attribute set to password. Finally, we have a button tag element representing the submit button. It doesn't have any specific event binding or text content. Inside the form, we have div tag element serving as a container for our username section. It contains a label tag element with the text username. After the username section, we have another div tag element serving as a container for our password section. And that concludes our exploration of the HTML code for login form. Each element plays a specific role in the creating of the form, allowing users to input their username and password and submit their form for further processing. We will be taking closer look at CSS file. Starting off, we have a style rule for the div element. Inside this rule, we have a few properties defined. Firstly, we set border property to 1 pixel solid, which adds a solid border around our div element. This helps visually separate it from other elements on the page. Next, we set the margin property to auto. This centers the div element horizontally on the page by automatically calculating and distributing available space on both sides. Moving on, we define the width property as 50%, which makes the div take up half of the available horizontal space. This helps create a balanced and visually pleasing layout. Lastly, we set the padding property to 10 pixel, which adds a small amount of space inside the div between its content and the border. This improves readability and creates some breathing room for the content within. Next, we have a style for the h1 element. Here we set the text align property to center, which horizontally centers the text within the h1 element. This ensures that the heading is aligned at the center of the parent container, providing a clean and symmetrical appearance. Lastly, we have a style rule for the .btn class. This class is likely used style buttons within our component. By setting the text align property to center, we ensure that the text within the buttons is horizontally centered. Overall, these CSS styles enhance the visual presentation and layout of our Angular components. They help create a clean and professional looking user interface. By understanding and customizing these styles, we can tailor the appearance of our application to suit our specific needs. We import two important modules from @angular/core, components and viewchild. These modules are essential for building Angular components. Moving on, we define our main component using component decorator. Inside the decorator, we have a few properties that configure a component. Let's break them down. Selector. This property defines the HTML tag or CSS selector that represents our component in the HTML template. In this case, the selector is set to app root, so wherever we use app root in our HTML, this component will be rendered. Template URL. This property specifies the external HTML file that contains the markup of our component's view. In this example, the template file is set to /appcomponent.html. Style URLs. This property is an array that holds the URLs of external CSS files that contain style specific to our component. Here the array contains a single file reference ./appcomponent.css. Moving on to component class itself. We have a few interesting elements. First, we declare a property called title and set it to login. This property will be used to display the title in the template or perform any other dynamic operations as needed. Next, we have a decorator called @viewChild. This decorator allows us to query and access a child component or element within our component. In this case, we are using it to reference an element with the template reference variable sample login. The getForm property is then assigned to this reference. This allows us to access the form and its values later in our code. Finally, we have a method called submitForm. In this method, we perform a basic login validation. We check if the username and password values in the getForm object match the expected value lion and tiger respectively. If the login is successful, an alert message logging success is displayed. Otherwise, an alert message login failed is shown. And that's it for the code breakdown. By understanding this component.ts file, we gain insights into how an Angular component are structured and how various features like decorators and viewChild can be utilized. I hope you found this explanation helpful. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with more exciting Angular tutorials. Until next, happy coding!